Welcome to Let's Talk Petty. We're not petty, but we talk about it because we love it. I'm Kate.
I'm Andrew and confused.
You're not confused. You're fine.
I'm always anxiously waiting to see what you're going to do next.
Well, that wasn't that great, so
You're right.
you can be disappointed.
Glad you said it and not me. What's up?
Hi.
We're done bickering?
Is that bickering?
I don't want someone to do a podcast about us. Two podcast hosts that are constantly fighting within the first 60 seconds of their episodes.
That sounds like it would be fun to listen to.
There's another one we're going to do. We're just going to listen to every podcast and see how often people fight within the first 60 seconds.
I don't think we'd have much to talk about.
No, just us.
Tell me your story.
Do you have any clue who it is?
No clue. This is the last episode for our season. So you're living up to
The last
high
one.
expectations.
The last one of us prepares. We've still got a recap episode.
The recap episode. And we're still going to do our minis, but last full episode of
Are you excited? Are you sad? Happy?
I'm excited because I feel like we need a little break.
One of us does. Now you know who's quitting on you.
You're quitting on me? You're leaving now?
Yes.
Oh, man.
All right. So for my final one of the season, we're going for a three-way.
Okay.
William Shatner, Leonard Nimoy, and George Takei.
Wow. He did not like any of them. And by he, I mean Billy.
Billy Shatner.
Yeah.
So I like to call him Billiam.
Billiam. Hello, Billiam.
I feel like if my name was William, I would go with Billiam instead.
You should. You should just change your name.
Nope. That's only if it was a once-in-a-lifetime opportunity to get named William, and it did not happen.
Wow.
So no Billiam for me. But yes, they did not like each other.
But I feel like
most everyone else did,
Mm-hmm.
but Billy had a reputation.
Yes, he did.
By many people on the set.
He was a little full of himself.
Difficult to work with, very full of himself.
Mm-hmm.
So you know all three were on Star Trek.
Yes.
You've got that knowledge. Which one was Captain Kirk?
That would be Billiam.
William Shatner. And which one was Sulu?
That would be, I can't say his name. And I don't remember his first name.
You don't remember his first name?
What's his first name?
George.
George.
Takei.
How do I? George.
And Leonard Nimoy was...
Obviously Spock.
Was Dr. Spock.
Dr. Spock?
I call him Doctor.
Oh, okay.
He's an alien.
He is an alien with pointy ears.
Pointy ears.
And the pinch.
So would you say you were a team... Did you watch Star Trek? I'll ask that.
The only reason I know anything about Star Trek is...
Your mom used to rush home late at night to watch it.
I don't know if she ever rushed home for that, but she is all about Star Trek.
Well, that's funny because this show was out way before you were born. And ended way before you were born.
Yes.
So she couldn't have rushed home to make you watch it. So you must have rushed home to watch reruns.
Well, no, she didn't really. I mean, she did watch the original Star Trek, but she was very much into Star Trek: The Next Generation.
TNG.
She loved that show.
She was very...
My mom loves a lot of shows. So
she was very engaged, would you say?
Yes.
That's wordplay for Star Trek fans that are listening.
They loved it. They loved it. And it went right over my head.
But you like Star Wars.
I do like Star Wars. So does my mom.
So I feel like there's I feel like there's some crossover, but I think most people are either Star Wars or Star Trek.
It's very true.
And we're more of a Star Wars family. Very.
Are you also
so.
going to say what candy we are too?
No. We're a Star Wars family. Star Wars candy. We're a Star Wars family. But if you had to choose, would you be a Team Spock or a Team Kirk?
Obviously Spock.
That was the problem.
Why? Because most people picked Spock instead of Kirk?
We're going to talk about it a little bit more.
Cry me a river.
We'll talk about that A little bit.
He cried a river for real?
Stream.
Oh.
Not quite a river. His tears dried up first.
Oh, he was sad.
So this is more of a case of frenemies again.
Mm-hmm.
Frenemies with petty benefits, as I say. They were friendly for years and years. Over 50 years, they were friends. Even with all the stuff that happened on the set, not liking each other, they were still really good friends.
Yeah.
But for the last 5 years of Nimoy's life before he died, in 2015, they did not speak one word to each other.
That's a way to go out with a bang.
Would have been literally if he got shot.
He didn't, though.
No. So there's actually a lot of similarities between the two of them that I never knew about until I started looking this up. So they were both born in 1931.
Wow. How old is Shatner?
91. Well, no, he's almost 90. Or he's 90.
And he just went to space. Wow.
Yeah. We're going to talk about that too.
I'm impressed.
We will talk about his space expedition briefly. And they both had families that immigrated from the Ukraine.
Had no idea.
Me either.
Wow.
Same year, and the families came from the same country when they came to the United States.
That's
and
cool.
A third, they both started acting in 1951. So 20 years old, they both started acting. And they mostly started in movies with very small parts on movies, and then they both transitioned to TV without obviously knowing each other too much other than maybe hearing names when they first started out. They got famous doing guest spots and one-off spots on TV shows. Nimoy was on shows very different than Shatner's path on TV. Nimoy was on shows like Dragnet, Perry Mason, Get Smart, Gunsmoke, some more of the detective type shows, Shoot 'Em Out. Shatner was more on the sci-fi side, which is why it made sense he was on Star Trek, but he was on Alfred Hitchcock. And obviously, what do you think the show that he's very well known for from back then?
Hold on. It's on the tip of my head. Oh my God. Twilight Zone.
Seen it a million times, Twilight Zone. And which one was he most famous for on Twilight Zone? Which, fun fact, was actually the second episode he was ever in. He was actually in an episode before this one.
I honestly don't remember. Was he on the episode where there's something on the wing of the plane? Okay.
Bob Wilson was going crazy and thought there was a monster on the wing of the plane.
Well, there was a monster on the wing of the plane.
But everyone thought he was crazy. So that was actually his second Twilight Zone appearance. And I had no clue about that. I always thought that was his debut on Twilight Zone. So they were kind of on different paths. They eventually met up in 1961 on the TV show The Man from U.N.C.L.E. Have you ever heard that?
No.
They did a movie remake of it about 7-8 years ago. It was a spy fiction TV show. And they had a few scenes together in the episode that they were on together. And Nimoy was the villain and Shatner was the recruit. So there's some pictures, and you can watch the episode. The pictures that I saw, there's a picture of Nimoy holding a gun up to Shatner. So that's kind of where they first got introduced and started acting together.
Okay.
So a few years later, let's see, however many years, in 1966 is when they started Star Trek. I don't feel like doing the math. So after they started acting, 15 years from the time they started acting,
okay,
they got onto Star Trek. And it was very happenstance that they got onto Star Trek together because Nimoy was on the very first pilot of Star Trek. But NBC made them reshoot the pilot. They wanted the show, but they made them reshoot the pilot. And the only person that carried over from the first pilot was Leonard Nimoy with the whole new cast of people.
So
they got rid of everybody else, but Nimoy was the one that carried over.
They're like, we like the show, hate everyone but that guy.
Which is weird because he did not have that sci-fi background. He was in a lot of the detective type shows.
That's
which
kind of
didn't
funny.
even fit the character that he played to begin with. I mean, the logic part of it and how, this is this way, this is this way. That part carries over, I guess, from the detective type thing. But so that's how they happen to be in the same TV show together. So they're on Star Trek now. And just to see what you know.
Okay.
Remember the movie The Cable Guy?
I do.
Do you remember the scene that Chip Douglas recreates that was famous for Star Trek fame?
Nope.
They were in a little place to eat, There was some jousting.
Oh, okay, yeah, okay. The
That
jousting
was
scene.
a recreation of the first episode of the second season of Star Trek when Nimoy and Shatner were fighting each other. And he even mentions it. Best friends when he's talking there. That's what they recreated, was that scene with a throwback from Chip Douglas to a TV show. Just fun.
It is fun.
Had nothing to do with their feud, but although they were fighting. And actually that scene, a lot of people will say that it points to their whole battle through life, just fighting each other, like the acting part of it, friends, but still having to fight each other but working through it.
Friends because they were competitive with each other?
Not really. I don't think, from what I've read and did some the basic research I did, I don't think Nimoy cared too much.
Ah, okay.
He was there. He enjoyed what he did. But Shatner, because he was the captain, felt that he should have been the most popular person.
Give me a break. Because, like a lead singer?
Exactly. He was the lead singer of Star Trek.
I should be more famous than you.
Didn't Shatner do a bunch of commercials too where he was singing? Or like, I vaguely remember that now.
So wasn't he for that like the credit card, Capital One?
No, it was
and
one of
Priceline?
those Priceline. Yes. I remember him singing on a few of those now. When you said lead singer, that just reminded me that he did sing in some commercials.
He was living out his dream of being a lead singer.
He was
vicariously through these commercials.
Spokesperson for Priceline.
He was.
Thanks for jostling my memory.
You're welcome.
Finally did something good.
Oh, thank goodness. It's about time.
I've been carrying this podcast for 24 episodes, and finally you did something.
Thank goodness I'm here for this moment.
We all are.
Yeah.
All right, so this feud started while they were on the set. There was a lot of incidents that people just allude to, but they basically just, nobody liked, like we talked about, nobody liked Shatner. He was a little bit full of himself.
Mm-hmm.
Thought he should be the most popular. He was the captain. Spock was the pointy-eared, nerdy alien outcast that was on the Enterprise with him. But he was more likable and lovable at that time while the TV show was on than Shatner's character, than Spock, or than
Kirk,
Captain Kirk. And keyword being character, because at that time, and we talk about it a little bit with the feud between Takei and Shatner. At that time, Shatner is just almost forgetting the fact that this was a TV show and it wasn't real life. It's just not the way that it works. Sometimes the captain of the ship is not going to be the most popular person. But he didn't like it. But anytime anyone would ask him about it, he would say that wasn't, he couldn't believe that nobody liked him and that Shatner and that Nimoy had actual problems with their whole relationship while they were acting on the TV show. Like, according to him, like most people in this situation, they were great. They had no problems. I don't understand why people don't like me.
I don't know. That's where Sarah Jessica Parker got it from. I don't understand what's going on. I was great. The relationship was great. We were great. If I say it enough, people believe it.
And he believes it. Good callback to another episode.
Yes, it was.
But wait until you see the callbacks that we have at the end of this one.
Oh, Lord.
It is a perfect tie-in to our whole season. Not every episode, but it ties up with a nice bow at the end.
I'm excited.
So we're at this whole thing here about popularity. It played out on the set. People saw it. They recognized it. And you remember George Takei, who was Sulu.
Mm-hmm.
He went on your favorite Doctor Who characters podcast.
Okay.
Actor, which is
David Tennant.
Yep. He's got the podcast. David Tennant does a podcast.
He's the best ever.
Welcome to Doctor Who podcast.
No, just saying David Tennant is the best ever.
I think many people would believe you and agree. But there's also people that would disagree.
No.
Mine's the black and white Doctor from the very first one.
You're wrong.
I don't like those either.
Yeah.
So anyways, now that we're back to this sci-fi series, welcome to Sci-Fi Talk with Kate and Andrew, where we talk all the sci-fi. We're not sci-fi. We just talk about it.
No, that's terrible.
So Takei was on the podcast with him, and so David Tennant asked him about their relationship. between Shatner and him. And it's a little bit crazy how this all goes around, so just stick with me.
Okay.
All right, so Takei, this was a quote that he answered on this question about his relationship. He said, "It got more and more intense. How do I put it? It began from the TV series. There was one character whose charisma and whose mystery was like a magnet. It was Spock, the strange alien with pointy ears. That intrigued the audience, and women thought I'm the one who can arouse him. His fan letters were this many, and Leonard's were that many, and that created a tension, that insecurity within him." No, I did not do the Takei voice.
He does have a very distinct voice.
And he talks in a very distinct way.
Yeah.
So that was his opinion of what happened there with them, like how he viewed it from the outside.
Yeah.
So do you think you could have aroused Spock? Think you could have tamed him? It was just a weird thing. I can't imagine women back in the 60s being like, I could arouse him.
Since he is a fictional character, no, I would not write that I could arouse him. What a weird letter to get, too. I'd be like, I'm not Spock. Like, ugh.
Well, it's debatable whether they actually saw any of these letters or not. Because, and this was not the first time these comments were made about him, but of course Bill wasn't happy about Takei because they obviously have their own beef, which we'll talk about. So what does he do? Take a guess what he does. This was during podcast time. So
goes on Twitter.
Of course he goes on Twitter. As so many of our favorites do. And again, pulling it back to other episodes, wait until later. It is on a level that we've thought could not be reached.
He's going to reach the level that we thought could not be reached.
Yes, that's what I just said.
No, yes. I'm asking you. Wow.
He is. In my opinion, it's on that level.
I mean, I could see it. I've heard so many stories about his just being so full of hot air.
Yeah.
That's what got them to space.
Ooh.
Burned.
All right, so this is what Billy Shatner went on Twitter and said after he hears about this podcast episode, and people start asking about it.
And I'm sorry, if you already said it, what year was this podcast on?
Just a couple years back.
Oh, it wasn't? Because I was going to say, he hasn't had a podcast for that long.
Yeah, it's only been a couple years.
It has to be recent. Okay.
So he said, George needs a new hobby. Now he's making things up. We never saw fan letters. That's why there's so many secretary-signed photos. We barely saw George. He was in once a week at most. How would he know anything? The only person with jealousy is George.
Okay. Can I decipher what he just said on there?
Yes. That's what I'm hoping.
Absolutely saw those fan letters. I don't want to admit that what he said is right. So what I'm going to do is deflect, and I'm going to make sure everybody is very aware that George had a very small part on Star Trek. I was a bigger star than him, and now everyone knows.
That was dripping with deflection, that tweet. Like, I could hear the deflection. I could taste it. I could smell it. And the crazy part about that is he doesn't even address his relationship with Nimoy in that tweet, which was the whole point of what Takei got asked about, was their relationship. But instead, he just talks about their relationship between him and George.
Listen, if anybody can take a comment and very much not only make it about themselves, but misconstrue it, it's really petty people.
That was one for the Petty Deflection Hall of Fame. In my opinion,
really
I would
good.
vote for the Petty Deflection Hall of Fame on that one.
That's pretty good.
First, it was on Twitter.
Not anything of no. Or what are you talking about? Nimoy loved
we were
me.
Great friends.
I loved him. We had our differences. I loved him, whatever the differences were. Nope.
First of all, we never saw those letters. Our secretaries signed them all. So
we
who
saw
would
all
know?
of them. We saw all the letters, everyone. What part of when people make these statements do they not realize that we all know what happened? You're just telling us.
Just admit the truth. It's not difficult to do. It's not hard.
And nice way to throw it out there that you did not care about your fans. Oh, I just thought the secretaries deal. Oh, they sent you those. Not even my signature.
All in all,
I was too busy and important.
All in all, it was just a terrible response to. He should have just kept his mouth shut. Like we say all the time about people that go on Twitter. Just keep your mouth shut.
I know, because everybody reads my tweets. I always say this. I've learned my lessons, though.
That's why you don't log on anymore.
Not lesson, but lessons.
Lessons multiple times.
Multiple lessons.
So he let that one go there on Twitter, but he did get reached out to by the Hollywood Reporter, the website, news or magazine, whatever you want to call it. And they asked him about it again. He claimed now that there wasn't any animosity at all towards him or towards Nimoy, between him and Nimoy.
Mm-hmm.
But it was more geared toward the show's direction and where it was going because of the popularity of Nimoy and Spock's character. So he claims it was basically just him going to the producers and saying, hey, he's so popular, where's the TV show going? But people heard it as, why is he more popular than me?
Probably because he was saying
there could have been a little bit of both. I could see him throwing a rant, talking to the producer. Yes. I'm the captain. Why is it going in this direction?
Yes.
I think he's remembering things wrong.
And obviously,
I was the producer.
I told him to get out of my face. I think that he was going to him saying, you need to write better for me. I should be more popular. I'm the captain. How am I not more popular? Write better stories. Oh my God, I could just see him, script in hand, rolled up, ranting and raving, smacking whatever was around with the script. I need better scripts. These lines are terrible.
And that's funny you say that, because we're going to touch on the writing a little bit later too in the movies, not the TV series, but the movies, because there's definitely some petty going on in the movies too.
I always would go. Mom would always want to go to the movie theater to see it, and I would go with her. Always complaining.
Wait, did she boo and hiss when one of them would be on screen?
No, she definitely did not.
Throw a sheep carcass?
She did not throw a sheep carcass.
She probably didn't know how to get it in the theater.
She did not. She did not. And I would give her all these ideas, and she would never take them.
We
She
should have had this
podcast
can't. Out when you were a kid, so she could have brought the sheep carcass into the Star Trek movies and thrown it at whichever character she did not like.
But I told her, and she just ignored me. So I was like, I gave up after like the 10th time. Come on. I'm not going to do it anymore. No, but she always dragged me. I always whined and complained and acted like such a butthead. And then I always ended up actually really liking the movie and being like, oh, it was actually really good. But every time I would do that to her. You think I would remember from the first time? I actually really liked that movie. Okay, sure, I'll go. No. I was like, I don't want to go. This is stupid.
Did you go to see Star Trek II, The Wrath of Khan?
Whatever ones were in the theater.
They were all in the theater. I got to break it to you. Every single Star Trek movie was in the movie theater.
What I meant was in the theater while I was alive. I don't know when they came out.
Are you dead?
Yeah. Half my childhood
while
I was
you were
dead.
Alive.
I don't know.
Now I'm sitting here doing a podcast with someone that's not even alive.
With a ghost. No, but when I don't know when they came out. What was the year that the first one came out? I don't know.
It was in the 80s.
Okay. Well, there you go.
I only remember going to a couple of them.
I'm almost positive. And I would ask my mom to verify, but she will just say, well, I don't remember.
I never saw What's Star Trek?
What's Star Trek? No, she knows Star Trek. She could tell me the whole basis of the movie, but she won't. She probably won't even remember how much I threw a hissy fit about it.
Just like Shatner. He didn't remember any fireworks with Nimoy. That was his quote. I don't remember any fireworks.
There was no fireworks. We just tried to kill each other several times.
So he is not remembering things, in my opinion, not remembering things the way that they actually were. He's very deflectable.
Well, is he deflecting or is he remembering things like his version of events?
I think he's doing a mixture of deflecting and selective remembering. And so recreating things the way he wants it.
Okay, so he is basically being George Costanza.
Yes.
It's not a lie if you believe it.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, I see.
And later in the episode, we're going to have a Seinfeld reference.
I'm kicking off everything.
We're on the same page.
This is crazy.
So after the show ended, it only lasted for 6 years. They did a lot of Star Trek conventions together.
Wait, that was only 6 years?
Yeah.
God, when you're a kid, it feels like a freaking lifetime. You're watching Star Trek again? I just want to play video games. I will after this episode.
Welcome to Trauma Talk.
The trauma of my life.
Welcome to singing lessons.
A beautiful voice that I have.
Anyway.
Yeah, go on.
Anyway, after the show ended, they did Star Trek conventions together. A lot of the other actors and actresses were there. People were friendly. And he even alluded to that in this interview with the Hollywood Reporter that everything was good shortly after the show ended. But because they weren't filming anymore, they all kind of drifted apart, stopped seeing each other. And that was until the movie started back up.
How many years in between?
I'm not sure. I probably should have looked that up.
Yeah.
It was a little bit of time because the show ended in the 60s, I believe. Maybe not. Maybe it ended in the early 70s.
Okay.
But the movies came out in the 80s, so it was a bit of time.
Wow. So during that time of just 6 years, like they did some pretty crazy things, like because they had an Asian American,
yes,
an African American,
very groundbreaking.
They had an interracial lip locking
alien.
That's crazy.
For
That's
then,
really crazy.
It was groundbreaking TV, and that was
Yeah.
the whole point of that's what the future is going to be. That's why they cast it like they did. It was supposed to be that message to America at the time that this is what we have to look forward to.
Look how much better off we are now. The future is great.
It really is. So they are all friends. They're filming, but eventually, of course, their friendship fell apart. Sort of during the movies, but especially after.
Okay.
And like I said, after 2010, they stopped talking to each other. And this was all over, allegedly, a movie that Shatner wanted to film, and he wanted Leonard Nimoy in it. It was going to be a movie about the Star Trek captains, kind of reliving some of it. There's not a lot of details of this whole situation, but for whatever reason, Leonard Nimoy did not want to be in it.
He was too busy being on Simpsons.
He wanted nothing to do with it. One of my favorite Simpsons episodes, by the way.
It's a good one.
It is. Should watch that again.
We should.
I should have watched it while I was doing this episode.
Even
though it had nothing to do with the episode.
Doesn't matter. He was on it, and he was funny.
He was in a lot of things.
He was.
So for whatever reason, Nimoy didn't want to be in it, but Shatner secretly filmed him, and Nimoy found out about it. And Shatner feels that is what ended their 50-year friendship.
All right, hold up.
Yes.
How do you secretly tape someone? I'm so confused.
I don't know. Hide the camera under a blanket? I don't know.
Where was he secretly taping him? At his house?
I don't have the details.
What? Okay. You read somebody secretly taped somebody else and you don't get the details of where, when, how long did this go on for? What was he taping him doing?
Did you ever want to record this episode? Because everything I read was basically the same minimal information.
This is very disappointing.
Let me call Bill up.
Yes.
And be like, hey, I need the deets.
Well, maybe he'll tell us.
He probably will. He's a super nice guy. Friendly, easy to get along with.
Okay. He will. I'm telling you right now, Billiam, he's going to let us know. I have faith. I have faith in him.
Me too.
I really just want to know.
As soon as we're done recording, I'm going to reach out, and then when I get the information, we'll add an addendum to the end of this episode.
Okay.
And
all right.
Record our answers.
Continue.
So Shatner, as I continue, Shatner feels that's what destroyed their friendship, was this one incident. But Nimoy never told him.
You
because
shouldn't.
They didn't talk.
Oh, well.
But obviously it definitely had something to do with it. And like that was it. Nimoy was done with him. But at the same time, obviously there had to have been more in the past that just builds up, and that was just Nimoy's final straw. That's it.
What is he going to use this footage for?
It was for a movie.
I know, but what's he going to do with
boy.
What?
Let's pause this podcast. Let's do some research. Let's go to his house, drive there, get the answers, and we will come back and record.
No. But how, what was he going to do with this footage for this movie? Use his voice from when he was on Star Trek and in the movies and dub his voice in? I'm just so confused as to what he would even do with this footage.
It was about Star Trek captains.
Okay. They were in character, or this is really who they are outside of their Star Trek characters. Like,
I'm sure it was like a
it?
retrospective type of a deal.
So weird.
Trying to be an artist, I guess.
I guess. Secret footage of your friend. Yeah, he probably was going to be mad at you. Looking up, seeing William Shatner outside your window, holding a recorder.
I'm going to assume that that's the way it happened.
It is absolutely how it happened.
All of a sudden, Nimoy's looking up and he's got all these cameras up in the ceiling.
He goes to use the bathroom, take a
got
shower.
two-way
There's
mirrors
2
in the
cameras
bathroom.
there. That's all I'm picturing.
He's got people hidden in the back seat of his car when he goes to drive away.
He's got those lipstick cameras all pointing at him in his car.
His rearview mirror is now a camera.
He has so much footage.
Just hoping that Leonard Nimoy talks about Star Trek nonstop while he's driving by himself.
But all footage he has is just him belting out every song he loves. And of course, in between, he's saying stuff about how much he hates
William
Shatner.
And then Shatner gets a commercial. Leonard Nimoy sings the hits.
He puts out a CD. And these are candid moments, folks. You can get this CD for $29.95, and for just $10 more, the video comes with it.
And as a bonus CD, you can hear Leonard Nimoy on the second CD, if you call now, talking terribly about William Shatner.
Boy, does he hate him.
Maybe he talked about this incident that I'm about to talk about on the CD in his car.
Maybe.
So there was a YouTube video that you can watch. I'm definitely going to link it.
Okay.
So I'm just going to talk about a couple of things that kind of all added up to probably to this point where he was just done with him.
Uh-huh.
William Shatner had a habit of stealing Leonard Nimoy's bicycles on the set of Star Trek. Now picture Leonard Nimoy riding his bicycle on the set, parking it there. Okay. And believe it or not, he had his name, Leonard Nimoy, on the bicycle.
And you said that. All I can picture was the Wicked Witch of the West, the before she's in that. Mm-hmm. And that's going to my head.
You might have. Welcome to Wizard of Oz review.
Oh my God.
We've gone off on a lot of great wild tangents here.
Anyway, so he rode his bike.
So he was riding his bicycle on the lot. And there's an interview you can watch, and they're kind of joking about it, back and forth. Nimoy calls Shatner mean because he stole his bicycle. Shatner, reaches over, kisses him on the ear, just being playful and goofing around. It was a playful kiss.
Still, ew.
Just to show how close friends they were. But I feel like even watching it, I feel like there's some truth to both of their feelings in what they were saying. Okay. I feel like there were definitely, like, Nimoy was definitely calling him out and finally letting people know, hey, this guy used to steal my bicycle.
So
first of all, if you worked with someone and they had their name on their bicycle, what would you think of them?
I would.
It's a bicycle. You're in a closed lot, and he has his name, Leonard Nimoy, on the bicycle.
I would make fun. I could not make fun of him. I'd be like, oh, is this your son? You named him after you. I'd be like, you really like your bike. But you know what? Whatever. He likes his bike.
He did. And he had a good reason for doing it. And this is where some of the character crossover happens that I think they got way too into the character. Because when Nimoy got asked about it, he said it was the logical thing to do. Oh. Which would have been completely something that Spock would have done if he was filming a TV show, because it would have been logical. And his reasoning on why it was logical was because when they broke for lunch, he could get to the cafeteria where they had the food quickly. And then he could get back to get his makeup and his ears and everything redone to keep shooting without wasting time. So in his mind, it was logic, and there was definitely logic there to it. But of course, because Shatner's petty, he viewed it that Nimoy wanted to get the food first before everybody else. And he didn't feel that he should have gotten the food first because he was the captain and the star of the show.
Nuh-uh.
That's what a lot of people have said about this whole bike stealing incident, is that, and even some of the the cast members have kind of alluded to when getting asked about it. They admit that this happened.
When he was hired, were they like, you're going to be captain, so you're the most important actor here? And that's
Captain
why.
is always highest.
And that's why everybody was like, or he was like, why isn't everybody treating me like I'm the best? It reminds me
of the Office episode where Michael says he's the captain's highest. He actually says those words.
He does.
So
I wonder if that was their way of making fun of Captain Kirk.
Probably not, but
Probably
maybe.
not.
We can assume so.
I'm going to say it is.
Shatner plays it off like a prank. And like most people that play terrible pranks on people.
How many times did he do this quote unquote prank?
How many times would you say he's done it?
I mean, one time is funny.
One time is probably a prank.
One time is funny. That's it. After that, you're dumb. Stop it. It's not funny. You're the only one that thinks it's funny. Just shut up. Don't do it again.
He did it 4 times.
My God. So
the
annoying.
First time he did it, and this is where maybe it would have been a prank, just drawing attention to the fact that he rides his bike. He hung it from the ceiling of the soundstage.
That was the first time?
The first time.
Okay. That's funny. Funny. You did it. Good job. Pat on the back. You're not funny anymore.
Second time, he chained it to a fire hydrant and Nimoy had to use bolt cutters to get it free.
Oh my God.
All because he didn't want him to get to the food first.
He's serious about his food.
Third time, Shatner took the bike, hid it in his dressing room, which was guarded by a Doberman in his dressing room. And they joke about the fact that the Doberman tried to attack Nimoy when he went in to get it. Fourth time, Nimoy tried to get smart. Probably annoyed.
Yeah.
So he's like, I'm going to put my bike, and this doesn't make sense. He had his car there, so he puts his bike in his car.
What?
Yeah, that's what I said too.
Okay, wait. So he probably kept his bike
probably
on
there
set. Okay.
To ride around.
Only to ride around on the set.
I'm guessing.
Okay, that makes sense.
So he puts his bike in his car. So
Okay.
what do you think Shatner does?
God, I don't know. Puts a boot jack on it or
he got
steals
the
his keys.
whole car towed.
Oh my God.
With the bike in it. So that is, I'm sorry. The first one is a prank. Maybe all those in Shatner's mind were prank and he's playing it off as a prank to be mean.
Yes.
But that is
Yes.
mean to do to someone multiple times.
But see, dumb people who are just mean, they try to cover up their stuff. Oh, I was just being
Just
funny.
joking.
I'm just joking around.
But there definitely was some honest feelings of animosity towards Nimoy, in my opinion, with all of those incidents.
Well, yeah. How would you feel if somebody kept doing that to you?
Probably not good.
Yeah.
I remember when you tied my bike up.
I just like to tie bikes
every
up.
day for 2 years.
I like to tie bikes up.
Yeah, it wasn't
I
fun.
told you that. I said, don't leave your bike there. I'm going to tie it up.
And every single time you said, no hard feelings. I'm just joking.
And then I laughed and laughed.
And then went on a talk show and talked about it. And then we filmed a YouTube video talking about it.
And then I went on Twitter.
Mm-hmm. We are going to be on this podcast episode talking about ourselves once, even though we already are. All right, so this is another thing. It was small, but definitely petty. So Star Trek 4 was probably the most popular Star Trek movie there was.
How many did they make?
6 with the original cast, I think. It was either 6 or 7. They made a bunch. So Star Trek 4 was probably the most popular one. It was called The Voyage Home, and Nimoy directed that one. Leonard Nimoy directed it. And he actually directed Star Trek 3, The Search for Spock also, and he helped write them.
I did remember
so those
that
were
he
a couple,
did do some
because it was
direction.
Wrath of Khan, Search for Spock, and then The Voyage Home. Those in succession, and they were follow-ups to each other. And the Voyage Home concluded everything from the Wrath of Khan.
Did Billiam ever direct any of them?
Funny enough.
Oh, you're going to talk about it? Sorry.
He recognized the popularity of Nimoy doing those.
Oh, so Nimoy did it first.
So he did those 2 movies, number 3 and 4. So Shatner wanted in on the action, and he said, I'm going to direct the 5th one, which is
terrible.
And he helped write it, which he hadn't done in any of the other ones.
Let me guess.
Star
Captain
Trek 5,
Kirk is the best ever.
The Final Frontier was universally known among Star Trek fans as one of the least favorite and worst reviewed Star Trek movies of all time.
Ha ha.
It got a 22 on Rotten Tomatoes. So he wanted to cash in on the popularity, keep up with Nimoy, and he could not do it.
What a wienerhead.
Could not do it.
That's what you get.
So a little bit more. We know that maybe you don't, but I think you do because we've seen the newer Star Trek movies, and Nimoy was in them.
Yeah.
In the newer J.J. Abrams movies, Star Trek ones. And that was before he died. It was shortly before he died.
Wait, he wasn't in it after he died?
No.
Oh, okay.
Breaking news.
Well, you clarified before he died, so
Yes.
I just was making sure.
I'm just making sure.
Yeah.
Making sure you're following where I'm
Yeah,
going.
and that there's not a zombie
Zombie Spock
walking around.
So Shatner never actually criticized the movie at all. He did an interview. He got interviewed about the new movies and Nimoy, but he got asked about Nimoy being in the movie.
And him not being in the movie?
No. He made sure to comment about what he thought about Spock being in the movie. He definitely wasn't a fan of Spock being put in there. Basically, he said they just wanted to put Spock in there, and I didn't admire that. So he was saying they're basically there for no reason.
So he didn't need to be in it.
But he just agreed to be in there because he wanted the fame.
Oh, why wasn't I in the movie is what I'm really saying. Do you guys get that? Do you hear what I'm saying? Why wasn't I in the movie?
Mm-hmm. And so he got asked, would you be in a movie? And this was his response. Definitely some sarcasm and petty undertones here. He said, if they would come up with a way of putting a character I played in a movie where it functioned as a point in the movie and made the movie move along, I'd be delighted.
Give me a break.
So
You'd
basically,
be in that movie if they asked.
He's insinuating that the whole movie froze and it was an unnecessary scene because they put Nimoy in it. Then they got back to the action. It was a cool part in the movie where the two
and a part that everybody loved. So shove it.
Mm-hmm. So after that, so all those things, among many other things, led up to the whole movie incident, which we don't need to talk about because it really bothers you.
What? What movie incident?
We won't talk about it. The one we won't mention.
What?
The one you know nothing about, where he was going to put him in the movie. But Nimoy said, I don't want to be in it, so he secretly filmed him.
Oh, God. Why'd you have to remind me?
I know. It's why I didn't want to say it.
He's in his closet, peeking through his clothes. Whole image is just him through clothes, through the closet, through the slat doors. And somehow he was able to get Nimoy in the shot.
I knew I shouldn't have brought it back up.
This is my bedtime routine. And he's getting pajamas on. He's got this whole song that he does for his bedtime routine.
And we all got to see it. So it got so bad, again, they weren't talking to each other, that when Nimoy died in 2015, almost all of the old cast that was still alive and people involved with Star Trek showed up, but William Shatner did not.
Come on.
He did not go to the funeral. He said he had prior engagements.
Okay, well, you know what?
You were friends for 50 years. You put your prior engagements aside and be a man and show up to...
Well, no, maybe...
But he wrote a book. Shatner wrote a book talking about their friendship. Like, that was the main point of it. Like, Nimoy's name is big on the title of the book.
He wrote a book to make some money.
Right, but he talks about their friendship.
Yeah.
Because it was a big talking point with people.
Well...
But he could not go to the funeral.
What if Nimoy...
Any respect that I had for Shatner out of this whole thing, where maybe some of it was made up, the fact that he did not go to the funeral...
What if...
Was it?
What if we don't know and Shatner's too embarrassed to say? What if Nimoy wrote him a letter or something and it was delivered when he died to Shatner and it said, don't come to my funeral. I don't want you there. Don't say anything to anyone.
I've got to say that probably didn't happen because I feel like Shatner definitely would have talked about that.
No, I think that he wouldn't because he's too embarrassed.
No, he would have brought it up.
I don't think so. I feel like he would have been embarrassed.
We're going to agree to disagree on that because I feel like he would have.
I think that Nimoy would have written the letter in a way that if Shatner did bring it up, it would just make him look bad. It would paint him in a bad light. And so he can't bring it up.
It's an interesting thought.
Or he has dirt on him. Oh my God, he does. He has dirt on him. And he said, don't come to my funeral. I don't want you there. You freaking show up. I have this many people who are they're going to release this information that I have about you. That's definitely what happened.
Conspiracy here.
That is what happened. Good for you, Nimoy. That's awesome. Take that, petty from the grave. Oh, that's awesome.
We are Conspiracy Podcast 101. Watch out, Alex Jones.
I just figured out why he didn't go, but continue.
You did. So that was their little petty feud. So now we're going to go back to the whole Shatner and Takei. We're going to engage back, if we will.
Mm.
That's my second engage joke.
I got it this time.
Good. So these two definitely do not like each other. This one is just no question about it. These two have never liked each other, continue to still not like each other.
From the beginning.
From the beginning. And Takei talks about it.
Okay.
So we talked about the one thing he talked about on the podcast with David Tennant. So this was another one that he mentioned in another interview that stood out to him just from the beginning that made him dislike Shatner.
Okay.
So this was during a taping. They were filming Star Trek, and it touches on the jealousy that Shatner had toward Nimoy. Nimoy was getting done up to portray Spock on a TV Guide photo shoot, an essay that was being written about him. So they're looking at him, not at Shatner.
Oh, man.
Takei says Shatner came in, looked around, saw what was happening, made a phone call to the front office, and then someone came from the front office and got rid of the photographer, effectively ending that photo shoot for Nimoy.
Why?
Well, it's funny you ask. It was because Shatner, in his contract for Star Trek, had a clause in there that said that he was able to approve photographers on the soundstage. So through that loophole, because all this was happening on the Star Trek soundstage, he got rid of the photographer and had every legal reason to be able to not get in trouble for it.
What?
Is that petty?
An a-hole.
That's pretty petty.
Wow.
So that was one of Takei's wow, I do not like this guy. Another one that he remembers was when they were shooting one of the movies in 1983, and they were shooting it on the Paramount studio set, and there was an infamous fire that destroyed a lot of the set and the taping that was happening.
Okay.
Apparently it was very big news back then.
Well, I was 5, so I don't remember.
I don't remember it either. I didn't pay attention to fires when I was 6 years old in California, amazingly. But Shatner, he was very concerned when he saw this fire. So he went in, got a garden hose, and started spraying things down so that they could salvage what they could of the soundstage and the set and everything.
Okay.
Allegedly. That's what he says happened.
Okay.
But there's multiple versions of this story, including multiple versions that Shatner has said. Shatner's told him that a fireman told him that if he hadn't done that with the garden hose, then the whole set would have been destroyed and they'd have to rebuild everything. Okay. So he is getting high praise from firefighters left and right, allegedly.
Okay.
So he saves the day.
Wow.
False. He did not save the day.
Incorrect.
It did not happen like that. There was an article that came out in the Buffalo News in 1994 where the fire was ruled an arson. Someone purposely set this fire.
My God. He set the fire to make himself look like a hero?
There's no proof that he...
And that is the proof that... What's his face has for him?
It all comes together.
Oh, my God.
So there's no proof that he did, but apparently you've got the proof now. We've put it all together. But they said that in their version of the account, Shatner was not holding a garden hose. He was holding the actual fire hose with a fireman from all the interviews that they said. And there's also rumors based on confirmation by multiple people that Paramount Studios picked up Shatner from wherever he was and drove him to the scene after the fire had started. So if you want a conspiracy, William Shatner started that fire and got himself there, putting the fire out to draw publicity to himself to make himself look good, that he saves the day for the movie.
And Nimoy found out. That is how he was like, don't you dare come. I will tell everyone.
Yes.
Oh, my
We are going
God.
with that until we die.
We just figured out.
There's no way we're the first person to say that.
Thing. And so other people said that Nimoy told him not to come. Other
maybe
people
not
made
that far.
conspiracy
Maybe no one's
theory.
taken it that far yet. I'm going to put this on my Star Trek conspiracy website.
This
see
is
where it goes.
Definitely what happened. Nimoy saw him. Oh, my God. This is the whole thing.
This is
God.
salacious.
It is.
Controversial.
Do you make it a movie poster for this?
When Hollywood Reporter calls us up to ask us for an interview.
Groundbreaking.
We're going to be on TMZ in no time.
Only because I'm going to let them know.
Mm-hmm.
I'm going to leak it to them.
Leak it to them.
but then deny it.
So let's talk about some more of the petty things that happened between Takei and Shatner. That kind of looped everyone back together with that. So Takei and Shatner, remember how we talked about that Shatner produced and wrote Star Trek V, so he was in charge of everything, directed it, the whole deal. Takei almost skipped being in the movie. He was in it, but he didn't want to. All because of the fact that Shatner was directing. The tension and animosity that happened between them, he just didn't like him, did not want to be in the movie. And
Makes sense.
When you look at pictures online of these guys, they are almost never standing next to each other in pictures. They'll have a lot of the Star Trek crew, but there's almost always at least one or two people between them. They never will stand next to each other in these pictures. You probably wouldn't even realize it if you didn't know that they didn't like each other. But when you know they don't like each other and you look at pictures, they do not stand next to each other.
I mean,
ever.
I'm surprised that he was in the movie with how much I could not imagine disliking someone that much and then having to take direction. Because you know that because Shatner and him didn't get along, that Shatner probably was nitpicking everything that he did. Hey, when you're doing this with your hand, I think you need to do it like this instead. Try using your left hand.
He had an accent while he was on the movie, just while he was directing.
That was his director voice. That was his director voice.
I never knew directors got.
When you're a director on a set, if you don't use a very distinct voice, your normal voice, and then you have to make up a voice that you use. People won't listen. They don't listen. They remember what you say when you say it in the accent. Like when they go do the scene again, they've forgotten if it's your regular voice, but then the other voice comes in. Oh wait, he said do it like this. Thank God he used that voice.
We are wild and out there today.
I'm so tired and hyper.
All right. So Takei released an autobiography in 1994. Be a great one for you to read.
Did you read it?
No, I'm just saying it'd be a good one for you to read. And there's a lot of interesting tidbits about Shatner in there. And we're going to go back. We'll touch on the Star Trek V movie also. So he was in the movie, but reluctantly.
Okay.
So first, Takei said that Shatner, while they were on the set of Star Trek, would act like he had no idea who Takei was. Like purposely pretend like he didn't know him all the time. Again, one of those annoying, I was just joking.
My God. And who are you again?
Very childish and petty.
I'm the director. William Shatner?
I just think that he had to have done that because he had a grudge against him for a scene they did together.
Oh, man.
And Takei admits that he went too hard in the scene. They had a fencing scene with each other. And he just went crazy. And Takei will be the first person to admit that he went crazy.
Does he know how to fence and Shatner doesn't?
No.
Oh, okay.
He went too hard and Shatner never got over it. That says he did it all on purpose to hurt him, blah, blah, blah. Oh, don't hurt the captain.
Okay, you stole Nimoy's bike 4 times, you jerkwad. You can't forgive somebody for one thing?
And again, Takei admits it. I went too hard. I shouldn't have done that.
His hatred took over.
Yep. But, so Shatner never got over that. Again, I guarantee you Shatner, every time he'd walk on, who are you? Oh, I'm just joking. But he would do it on purpose to make him look bad. So back to Star Trek V, Takei's character over the course of the show rose from helm officer to chief helmsman to lieutenant commander. So he was rising up the ranks. He got his own ship.
Lieutenant commander.
Not just commander, lieutenant commander.
So obviously he's going to be worried about him because he's the captain. Well, he's coming for his position.
Funny enough, remember
God.
Shatner directed and wrote the movie.
Did he demote him?
He had the power to write him in as a captain because of all the years on the TV show, the other movies, and he did not do it. And Takei claims that he did this on purpose to limit his time on the film so that he wasn't on screen more than he was. So he already didn't want to be in the movie, and then he feels that Shatner limited his time on the movie after he agreed to be in it.
Yeah, well, okay, fine, I'm going to commit to it. And then Shatner doing that, in that comment he made, he said, I barely saw him. Mm-hmm. Probably he was talking, everybody thinks he's talking about the show, but really he's talking about the movie that he directed.
Barely saw him. I don't know why.
I only directed it and made sure he wasn't in it. I've said too much. So
it all ties together. There's truth to it. 2008, Takei got married to his longtime partner, Brad Altman. They got married, and amazingly enough, Shatner was not at the wedding. Takei claims that Shatner was invited, but then later said that he didn't invite him. So he said two different things, but Shatner says he never got the invite, and that's why he didn't show up. Otherwise, he would have. He assumes that it was because he disliked him, so he just didn't invite him to his wedding, because he figured, why do I want someone there that doesn't like me? But Takei has said different things at different interviews. Yes, I invited him. No, I didn't invite him. So who knows what actually happened with it or not. But
which one is it?
It's what I'd like to find out about.
Yeah, we need Camille Vasquez or whatever the heck her name is to cross-examine him. She'd get to the bottom of it.
She would get to the bottom. So at this time, it's 2008. Twitter was just starting out. So Shatner does not go to Twitter. He goes to YouTube. That was where everyone went, film a video talking about whatever was happening.
Nuh-uh.
He went on YouTube, recorded a video to put on YouTube of his response to this about the wedding.
Oh my God.
He talked about constantly about how Takei had been mean to him for decades and decades and decades. He must have mentioned it in this 5-minute video multiple. I mean, I lost track how many times he kept calling Takei mean. Grown man calling another man mean.
He was mean to me.
That's what it was. It sounded exactly like that. He tried very poorly to make the peace after all this. If you make the peace, you just let it go. You don't say anything else about it. But he keeps repeating that he wants him to stop being mean to him. It's not how you make peace. You don't keep saying, this person's mean, I want him to stop, but let's be friends. It's not how you do it. He also claimed in this video that the only thing he ever said negatively publicly about Takei ever was that he's psychotic. Pretty big one. Like he's bragging about I've only called him psychotic.
He's only psychotic, you guys. Jeez.
So of course everyone watches YouTube in those years, and Takei saw it, and so he fired back when he heard that and said, well, I think his stability is quite questionable. So this was, instead of a Twitter war, it was a YouTube war. Shatner then backs off and says, well, he's not psychotic about everything. It's just that he's psychotic and nervous about me. What a weird thing to say. He's only nervous and psychotic around me. Everything else, he's fine.
Maybe you better check yourself if someone's psychotic and nervous around you. What are you doing? But it's not him. It's not him.
No, definitely
it's not his fault.
It's never his fault.
No, it's not his fault.
So Takei hears that and claims that the only reason that he went on YouTube was because he was coming out with a talk show, and he was doing it for publicity in 2008, which just happened to be around the time of his wedding. Whether that came out on purpose or not at the same time as his wedding, I don't know. But again, if we're talking conspiracy theories, I could see Billy doing that. There's a lot
of conspiracy theories.
There's a lot of very coincidental things that are happening in these feuds.
Yes.
And almost all of them are planned, allegedly, conspiracally by Shatner. Very interesting.
Very interesting.
2012. So we're going to 2008 to 2012.
Okay.
Shatner puts out a one-man show called Shatner's World, We Just Live in It.
Yep.
He puts it out on Broadway first, and then he moves it to Vegas.
I remember. I don't know what it was about at all, but I remember hearing about it.
It was almost 100% about his feud with George Takei and how much he didn't like him. So the Washington Post did a review on this show. And the quote from the article, which is very interesting, the reviewer was talking about what the audiences would walk away from the show with, how they would feel, what they would remember from it. And quote, if they had to walk away from the show with anything, they would walk away with, quote, William Shatner thinks George Takei can't stand him. That is what this reporter walked away from the show with. Nothing else.
So it ate him up so bad that somebody had the balls to show great disdain for him that he had to make an entire show about it.
Which leads me to the Seinfeld episode where Kathy Griffin goes on and does the one-woman show about Jerry Seinfeld. And that's literally, in reading about the show, is exactly what Shatner was doing to George Takei. He was just using this show to bash him. And we're going to touch on it again here in a couple minutes.
Now I'm just picturing William Shatner in a red wig, holding a tape recorder of
with
Takei.
double horns on it.
And he's just making faces like her, laughing.
Well, funny enough, he couldn't use a lot of clips of George Takei on the show. We'll loop back around to that.
Okay.
So 2012, this show's going on, letting the world know how much he hates him. Now George Takei can't stand him. 2013, a year later, George Takei starts doing the rounds on talk shows. And one that he's well known for is a very famous clip. Recommend you watch it. I'll link it. It was an episode of when he was on Conan.
Okay.
And so Conan asked him about the new movies that were out, the new Star Trek movies, as one might from talking to someone that was on the old Star Trek shows. And he asked him if William Shatner should be in the movies. And so George Takei says, "Can you imagine Bill Shatner running down the halls the way Chris Pine did it? It would not be a pretty sight." So basically making fun of the fact that he's old, could not keep up with what he needed to do. And then later on, as they're talking, he said straight to the point, Shatner should not be playing Captain Kirk. Basically, nope.
Was he in the movies? Okay,
I don't believe so. I think Nimoy was the only one that was in it, but maybe one of the newer ones, but I'm not 100% sure.
I'm trying to remember.
But
I don't remember.
Of the first couple, Nimoy was in it. And people kept asking Shatner, would you be in it? Almost to rile up this whole thing.
What did he go on? Andy Cohen Live?
Actually, George Takei did go on Andy Cohen Live and made a comment. He called him a douche on the show on Andy Cohen.
Andy Cohen.
He's in so many of our episodes.
He is. We're gonna have, what is that? The 90 degrees or 9 degrees
Cohen.
to
6 degrees of Andy Cohen.
Yes, there you go. 6 degrees. That's gonna be on our show.
Be the fun game show we play. So we're 2013. So now 2014, they sort things out and try to amend the friendship, and they make a trade. This is how they fix their friendship, allegedly, is making a trade.
Wait, and what year is this?
2014.
What do they trade? False teeth?
No, they traded. William Shatner agreed to be in George Takei's documentary that he was making about Star Trek. Takei agreed to release footage from the 2006 comedy roast of William Shatner so that William Shatner could use it in his one-man show.
Oh my God.
That is what they agreed to basically put this whole feud on freeze and not bring it up anymore. They both wanted something and they both took something. But
he's on this one-man show still talking about Takei, and
but now he's got footage that he can use from the roast.
How about, hey, stop the show. You look like a dummy. No, that he doesn't do that deal.
Takei
He's
really
like,
didn't care. He's basically letting him look like an idiot. He doesn't care. Because now he's going to now people are going to be watching George Takei be funny on a comedy roast.
His motto might be my motto. I'm always like, everyone should be talking about me all the time. Good, bad, I don't care. That was his motto. All right, that makes sense.
Because every morning you wake up, you say that.
Everyone should be talking about me.
Everyone. And everyone is.
Everybody's talking about it.
But of course, they make this peace deal and it didn't last. Like it never does. Fast forward 1 year, 2015. Shatner now calls him, in an interview, he calls him a disturbed individual and claims he hasn't seen him in 25 years.
But they just saw each other.
No, he hasn't seen him in 25 years.
Did he get called out for his...
He has not seen him in 25 years. Takei heard about it and brushed it off as another publicity stunt for a project Shatner must have been working on. These two are just something else.
Sorry. You just made a deal with him.
But you hadn't seen him in 25 years. I can only imagine that they must have just had a proxy go and deal with each other.
Wasn't he on his documentary?
Doesn't make sense. Billy does not think these things through. Kate has got tears pouring down her eyes. She is crying a river.
I just gotta start making more wild claims that are clearly false. Man, I'm gonna stick to my guns. Oh, God.
All right, you want to go dark?
Sure.
Let's get dark.
Okay.
So we're going to fast forward from 2015 to 2018.
Uh-huh.
A few barbs were traded here and there, just nothing major over the next few years. But 2018, Shatner's at a theater for Star Trek fans, and he gets asked a question. He gets asked the question, what character would you play if he couldn't be Kirk?
God, please tell me he says Spock. Or no, he would be like, I'd do anything but Spock.
He allegedly likes Spock. But are you ready for petty? Because this is a pettiest answer you could give. His answer is Sulu, so I wouldn't have to deal with George Takei. That was his on-the-spot answer.
Who I haven't seen in now 30 years.
That's a very petty answer. I couldn't believe I couldn't believe he went that low. As an old man, he went that low and that petty.
At this point,
why are you still holding on to this?
How old are both of them?
I mean, they're in their 80s at this point.
God, can I just... I've really got to make an enemy I can be enemies with in my 80s.
But there was a follow-up question, and this is where we're going to go dark.
Okay.
The follow-up question was, do you wish George Takei was dead instead of Leonard Nimoy? And in typical Shatner fashion, where he should have just not answered the question,
I want them
said
both
next
dead.
question. And like we've talked about, where there's probably a little bit of truth in all of his things that he does and says, he responded, what a terrible question. Yes.
What?
He would rather have George Takei dead than Leonard Nimoy. Who would answer that question? Why wouldn't you just say,
what a terrible question.
That's a terrible question. Next question. It's that easy. But of course he had to say yes. And so now we go to 2019, and finally, this is when Shatner starts going on Twitter to talk about him. The one we talked about in the beginning of the episode was 2020, but this is 2019. Somebody makes a comment to William Shatner on Twitter about George Takei going off on him again on Howard Stern, I believe it was.
Oh, so Takei makes the rounds here.
He was very popular on there for a few years. So William Shatner tweeted, it's George's shtick. His obsession with my shiny ego, quote unquote, gets him attention. He follows me here, talking about Twitter. I don't mind. If I really did something to anger him, I'm sure he'd hold a press conference to announce he blocked me. Laughing emoji with a tongue sticking out.
Wait, what?
I was just describing the emoji that he used, but
I know that's
it would
what
be funny if he actually wrote that out.
I know he didn't actually write it out.
As an 85, 86-year-old man, I could see him doing that.
He had a one-man show.
Mm-hmm.
He is the one who perpetrated this, but he's trying to make it seem, if that is not just the petty way right there. What are you doing?
Shatner definitely is going to be in our Petty Hall of Fame, I believe.
This is incredible.
Like first year and vote in. No waiting till the second, third year.
You created a lot of this feud through your actions, but he just is obsessed with me.
Don't look at yourself. Just look at everybody else.
He's obsessed, you guys. I only have a one-man show about him, but he's obsessed about me. I haven't seen him in 25 years, even though I have the show and was in his documentary. But that dude is obsessed with me. Who are we talking about again? I don't remember who. Who is this?
Never heard of him.
Never heard of him. Oh.
So now we're going to go full circle. This is where our whole season ties in. We touch on so many different things. Let's see if you can pick them all up. So 2021. Remember what amazing thing William Shatner did in 2021?
I said his big ego took him to space.
He went to space on Jeff Bezos' rocket, Blue Origin.
He did.
A callback to our Jeff Bezos and Elon Musk episode.
Okay.
With a little bit of the Microsoft guy in there, Bill Gates.
Mm-hmm.
So Takei saw that Shatner went to space, and of course he had something to say. He got interviewed about it. Someone asked him, because everyone knows about their feud. And so his first response is, quote, he's boldly going where other people have gone before. A play on the Star Trek.
Boldly going where no man has gone before.
So he said he's boldly going where other people have gone before. And then later on in the interview, another quote, so 90-year-old is going to show a great deal more on the wear and tear on a human's body. So he'll be a good specimen to study, although he's not the fittest specimen of 90 years old. So he'll be a specimen that's unfit. Again, 90-year-old men saying this about each other.
That is amazing. I love it.
But that's not even the best. Because Shatner, of course, is going to have to respond to this on Twitter.
Of course.
Now, we remember the Elon Musk response.
Copycat?
Copycat.
Uh-huh.
Everything. This is going to be a harken back to our first episode with the Hatfields and McCoys.
Mm-hmm.
So Shatner responded with a tweet. Don't hate George. The only time he gets press is when he talks bad about me. He claims 50 plus years ago I took a camera angle, or he claims 50 plus years ago I took away a camera angle that denied him 30 more seconds of primetime TV. Talking about the movie.
Mm-hmm.
I'm giving it back to him now by letting him spew his hatred for the world to see. Bill, and then period, and then he types Bill with a pig emoji.
What?
Bill the pig emoji. So taking a page out of Elon Musk's book with the copycat, he does a pig, which is, of course, the main character from our very first episode of the season.
And it was a character in the Pig War.
The Pig War. Lots of tie-ins with that one tweet.
Pretty funny.
And will absolutely be a sticker.
God.
We're going to have so many Twitter stickers because people just cannot stay off Twitter and saying dumb things. Bill the pig. And it's going to be at William Shatner.
That's awesome.
Definitely ranks up there. Like when you thought nobody could go where Elon Musk went, William Shatner went there.
If anyone could do it, he could.
He could. So Shatner's response. Also, 55 years later, he's still saying how much he hates me. I have no idea why. I don't know what's the matter with him. He has no knowledge of me. He's led his own life. God bless him.
Oh, I wasn't even at his wedding.
So that sums it up right there. He is just absolutely 100% one of those people that cannot read the room, will say terrible things, has no idea why people get upset about it, and that's everybody else's fault but his own. Cannot see that it's his own fault for the way he acted towards people and why so many people disliked him.
How do you stay oblivious for that many years?
You live in a bubble, and you have yes men around you saying, yes, it is their fault. You're great.
You're wonderful. You're great. Is somebody more enduring if they're an idiot, but they know they're an idiot?
Absolutely. At least they're willing to admit it.
But they still do. They still do idiot things.
Doesn't make them a better person, but at least they're admitting it. They're on a next level up from someone like Shatner who will not acknowledge that many things are his fault, if not everything.
It's a petty way.
The petty way. He is in my petty Hall of Fame. Hopefully he's in yours. Hopefully you'll vote for him.
Maybe.
Well,
maybe.
I don't know. He's definitely up there. From all the people we've talked about in the first season, he is up there.
He is up there.
If you're getting your own sticker and t-shirt, you are up there.
That is true. I mean, I don't know who. I don't know who we're talking about.
Never heard of him.
Never heard of him. Haven't talked to him in 25 years.
You knew him when he was 65?
Yes.
Wow. How did I not know about this? So was he at our wedding?
Yeah. He came to our wedding.
But not,
but
not George Takei's.
He crashed
I went to another wedding 9 years ago.
I was invited to another wedding.
9 years ago, I went to a wedding of a real good friend. I cannot go to yours. Now that's the new conspiracy. That's one I can get behind.
He only came because Nimoy was invited and he had to secretly record him.
Full circle indeed.
Yeah.
So that's all the information about the fun pettiness between William Shatner, Leonard Nimoy, and George Takei. And it really was all tied together between the three of them. Because Takei saw the problems between Shatner and Nimoy, thought terribly of him, which started the pettiness between them.
I like it.
It was interesting research. you're going to have to watch the YouTube videos because it will add a lot to it.
Okay.
And a couple of those interviews that he did, especially the Conan one. I'll link them for people to be able to watch it also.
Okay.
But I am excited because I feel like you're going to be able to come up with a good petty roundtable response to this.
My conspiracy theory as to why he was not at Nimoy's.
That's just on the conspiracy theory table.
Yeah. I'll have to come up with something.
I know you're going to come up with some good ones.
I'm sure.
I almost led you on to one of them, but I'm waiting to see if you'll hit it.
No, I won't.
You will.
It went over my head.
Probably.
Yeah.
Let's go to the petty roundtable and see.
All right. We're here.
We are.
I enjoyed on our way here watching some videos.
It was a nice watch and walk.
Yeah.
Walk and watch.
Walk and watch and walk.
You got to see all the videos that I mentioned.
I loved them. I was cracking up at quite a few of them.
The YouTube video that Shatner put out in response to not getting invited to the wedding or actually getting invited to the wedding.
Yep.
That's probably the one you liked the most because it was so
insane.
Ridiculous, all the things he said.
Just wow.
If you haven't watched it, pause, find it in the link, and absolutely watch it. It will add a lot more depth to what we're talking about.
Could he be more transparent?
As just wanting to make Takei look bad, or for Takei to look bad.
Just what are you doing? Just stop.
And he keeps going.
Stop.
He could have ended that thing after a minute. He didn't have to put it out at all, first of all.
No.
But he did. And he should have ended it a lot sooner.
It was pretty bad.
Mm-hmm.
So we actually watched 2 videos of where he was talking about not just the wedding, but about how Takei doesn't like him.
Mm-hmm.
And he says so many times that he does not know Takei.
And that he doesn't know why he doesn't like him.
I don't know. I don't know why he doesn't like me, but here I'm going to list all the reasons why he doesn't like me. I don't know, though. I don't know. I couldn't even tell you what the first thing is that that I did that he didn't like, but here I'm going to tell you all about it. I'm going to tell you what it is, but I don't know. I don't know what the original thing is. Hey, let me tell you what it is.
Why would you invite someone to a wedding that you really don't even know?
You don't
but
know.
I didn't get invited.
I don't know him, but he doesn't want me there because I ruined his life, but I don't know why. I think the kicker...
I'm just kidding. You don't have to pause it because she just basically did the whole video in 15 seconds.
Still watch it because it's hilarious. The kicker is when he tries to say that maybe Takei was angry this whole time because he was hiding the fact that he was gay. And so he took it out on Shatner. If that wasn't the most beautiful way I've ever seen somebody make something that literally
I hope you finish this sentence.
Nothing to do with you. He does not care about you at all, Shatner, when it comes to if he is gay or not. Nothing in his equation of, am I gay? Am I not? Oh, William Shatner. Oh, God, I got distracted. I got to figure out my life. William Shatner. No, that never happened. I was like, what are you talking about?
He was so mad that he didn't just come out in the 60s. Could you imagine what would have happened if an Asian man came out on a popular TV series in the 60s?
And then he's like, you're gay, you're not gay. Who cares? What?
But don't take it out on me.
This is a man that was in an internment camp in the United States for being Asian, and you think he's just going to be like, I'm going to come out gay. What?
In the 60s and 70s.
Oh my God. I was just blown away. Also, how he said he felt so bad for him. He's such a poor man. Poor man. And he wishes that Takei would just have an epiphany. That poor Shatner is so lonely and unhappy. And he would feel bad for him and want to be his friend. But Takei is too unhappy with himself to do that. It's him.
It's basically saying fix yourself before you come try to be friends with me.
My goodness, that was so funny. And
so
how much he
question.
says.
Go ahead.
Oh, just how much he says he blackened
his name.
Shatner's name and his reputation. No, he didn't. You are doing
You
it.
did a pretty good job yourself,
So,
Bill.
I love how much people can't see. Okay, so maybe he didn't do anything crazy bad to Takei. Maybe he didn't. But Takei has eyeballs and he can see what you're doing and he sees you're a terrible person. Which you're going to link that whole thing with Nimoy and Shatner as well too, because Nimoy was not joking. I'm sorry, but he was not
I think
kidding.
he was cracking jokes about it, but I think his feelings genuinely were hurt.
He really was like, he is not a nice person. And like, that was so awkward. And you can tell in it with the way Shatner keeps looking at it.
He can't read the room.
He can't. He's like looking at Nimoy like, okay, wait a second.
Why aren't you laughing like I am?
Yeah, like it's a very, I'm oblivious person. Though all those things that I did to you were funny. It was just funny, but no, it was not.
I mean, Nimoy cracked some jokes, but you could tell he was waiting for him to laugh just as much as he was, and he really didn't. He just
did not.
Sat there like, okay, we're laughing about this, but I didn't like it.
Yeah, though they were all great. They were all, people still have to watch them, even though I'm talking about it.
So here's my question before you go in any further.
Okay, because I'm about to say what my thing is.
So there was no Twitter back then. Would you rather still see it the way it is now, where people go on Twitter and say things against each other and just type it out? Or would you rather see videos like that with Shatner where you air it all out on video?
I liked the videos.
It's a lot more work.
It is a lot more work.
I don't think people would be as free to say what they do in videos. I think it would be a lot more controlled.
Was that controlled?
It's interesting to watch their facial expressions and how they act and their body language, which you can't see when they're on Twitter and typing it. But I think people are willing to say things more on Twitter than they would actually saying the words out of their mouth.
Like that is true.
I was just curious.
But I like watching the videos. Because I love to read people's body language, and just his whole body language was, I'm so hurt by all of this, but I'm trying to act like I'm not. But how can anyone not like me? I'm Captain Kirk.
If you watch the video without sound, that's exactly the vibe you get from it.
He's
like, poor me.
Wow. Wow. It was incredible.
Let's hear what you got.
Okay.
It's the last episode where we're going to do this, so you better make it count. No pressure.
Well, oh wait, I forgot to mention too. After looking at the Takei documentary, whenever we go on road trips, I'm going to bring a bag of Fritos, make you open them, and then I'm just going to put my hand out for you to put each Frito in my hand.
In between
like
two
Takei's
fingers.
Husband. That was so hilarious. Can you open the Fritos, please?
Frito
and then
me.
Puts out his hand and he's handing it to him. How adorable was that?
It was one at a time, too.
It was so cute. And then when he got done eating it, he was like doing that little thing with his fingers to get all the crumbs off and then asks for another one. So just be prepared. Every road trip now. You're welcome.
Sponsored by Fritos.
I feel like Takei would approve. I thought that was very cute that he did that.
Mm-hmm.
Anyway, so William Shatner.
Billy.
He does his one-man show in 2012.
Mm-hmm.
And now, it wasn't just about Takei, but like that reviewer said, anything you take from it, it's going to be Takei does not like William Shatner, because clearly it's really bothering Shatner.
Mm-hmm.
But in 2014, when Takei did that documentary.
Documentary?
Why do I have a hard time saying that word? Camera.
Documentary
on the camera. So what he needed to do, they came up with this whole thing so that Shatner could be on it. But it would have been so funny because Shatner makes it so clear to everybody that he does not know who Takei is that from the second I don't know if he had to go somewhere or if they went to him, whatever it is, they had a whole binder and it was all about Takei, his whole life, everything about him, what he did on the show, who he was on the show, every single thing that Shatner would ever need to know. In every single page, somewhere on it had a picture of Takei. And when Shatner's looking through it, asking, what is this? Well, you don't know who he is. we need you in here because you guys were on a show together. Do you remember the show? It was Star Trek. You were on that show. Takei was also on the show. This was his character. This is who he played. And he had somebody run down every single time. And then any question that was asked, the person would obnoxiously be like, remember this scene? You don't know who he was. You don't remember him.
So he's going to have a big binder to answer all his questions.
Everything. And they have a rundown for who Takei was at every turn. Do you remember Takei in this scene? He was wearing this outfit right here. You were over here. Here you go. Get really technical. Here's the diagram. You were here. He was here. I know you were so busy. You had to learn 10 pages of dialogue a day. And he was only there, I think you said, just 2 days. Actually, that week he was there for 4 days. You were there for 5. So, but, just in case, you were learning all these lines. These were his lines he had to learn. Does this ring a bell at all? You were in this scene together. Just being over the top obnoxious.
And that's put out by Shatner's people or Takei's people?
Takei. That would be Takei's way of being super petty back at Shatner for this. And of course, the only person who would be amazing to do this. You know who I'm going to say. I'm in love with her now.
The lawyer for
Johnny Depp. Vasquez
team.
I think that's her name. She would have been amazing because she always had that binder and she was flipping. Do you recall that? Miss Heard? Flips her little page with such sass. She would have done that to Shatner.
Still got a lot of Heard animosity at this table.
No, I just have a lot of love for her and her sassiness. She would have been perfect. So you would have hired her to run this binder down. Do you need to see another picture of him? Do you remember him from that time? This is what he looks like now. Flips the page aggressively, shows him the picture. This is what he looks like then, or look like then. Flips it back over.
And yet somehow he still constantly says, I'm not sure who I'm looking at. And then she pulls a backup binder out. I knew you were going to say that.
I have this. She is like so prepared. And then there's a binder of nothing but pictures of the two of them interacting. Nothing. Just over and over and over again. Do you remember this? Do you remember this day?
It's going to happen so much that he's eventually going to get to the point where he doesn't remember himself. And then she's going to have to pull out the Shatner binder.
No.
To remind him of the fact that he's
turns into Takei. He starts talking in his very unique voice. And she's like,
oh my.
My job is done here. And she leaves.
Not too bad. Not shabby.
That, like, just as soon as I was watching the Takei documentary, like little bits and pieces of it, I was like, oh my God. Oh my God. And then with Nimoy.
What if?
What?
We had a little crossover of the Frito scene. And because Shatner was so terrible to Takei for all these years, they had to go on a road trip together. And the whole time he had to feed him Fritos. He was the Frito giver to Takei. And that's all he was there for.
Oh, so Shatner has to give Takei the Fritos.
And he has to sit in the front seat the whole road trip. They go on a cross-country road trip together, and he is just handing him any Fritos, any snacks that he wants. That's all he does. This snack's for George Takei. Every time he puts something in his hand, this snack is for my friend George. By the end of the road trip, they're going to be close companions.
Or he's going to be covered with smashed Fritos. One or the other. The other one for Takei, I'm going to steal something from Impractical Jokers. As punishment for Shatner doing that to his bike, he has to get tattooed on his person Nimoy's bike with the name somewhere prominent that everyone can see. Nice neck tattoo of his bike.
A neck tattoo on William Shatner.
I like to use tattoos for punishment. This is my second one.
It is. Huh.
It's fitting. It's permanent. He always has to look at it.
They will never forget.
They will never forget.
Just like our mini episode that came out about the elephants, which never forget.
They don't. So that was my my thing with Takei was more detailed because they're both still alive.
Well thought out. It was very fitting. I like it. I could see it happening. I could see Shatner getting annoyed by it.
Oh,
or
he
forgetting who he was, one or the other.
Listen, with how amazing she is, he'd forget who she. I could just hear. Do you remember that? Do you remember that?
And then somehow he'd have a feud with the lawyer saying how hurt he was and that she needs to re-examine her life and figure out what's wrong with it before she comes to him.
Is she gay? Maybe. I don't even know. And what is it with gay people and not liking me?
Probably what he blames anything on. Anyone has any problem with him. I think they need to come out of the closet.
Must be gay.
Well, that's episode 25.
25.
So next week is our big recap, 26.
I feel like we just recapped everything in this episode.
It did tie up nicely with the crazy tweet with the emoji pig. Pig back to the first episode. We talked about a lot of little details in this. It was funny as I was getting all my research. There were a lot of details from other episodes through this that all tied together.
But the one that is the best is what's his face there from Bravo.
Andy Cohen.
Andy Cohen. I like how I could remember his name then. I cannot remember his name the second.
What's his face?
What's his face?
So come back next week. We'll play 6 Degrees of Andy Cohen. Somehow tie the Hatfields and McCoys to Andy Cohen. Kate's going to do it.
He somehow had some ancestor of theirs on. No doubt.
And they all hung out and talked on Saturday nights or Friday night, whatever night his show's on.
I don't know. Never seen it.
We could pretty much ask anybody in Hollywood since they've been on it.
Yeah.
We'll talk to him. When I go and talk to Bill, I'll ask him.
Yeah, definitely. Well, no, you got to go to Takei because Takei went on the show. Yeah, you got to ask him.
He'll do.
You're in.
Will do. But in the meantime, go to our website, letstalkpetty.com. You can download all our old episodes. You can go to our web store and support us by buying some merchandise. You can get our link to Twitter, which is Let's Talk Petty Pod, and you can interact with us there and come back next week for episode 26, where we recap our whole first season. And that is all I have.
All right. Well, we're going to see you next week for our recap.
Bye-bye.
Thanks for listening. Please be sure and give our show a review wherever you listen to your podcasts. And be sure to follow and subscribe so you don't miss an episode.